Well, awesome. So, I mean, today you're the director of brand narrative for the North Face. Um, but I know your journey starts a long time before this and sort of involves the North Face early on as well, but just on a different side of it, right?
That's right. I've always been a big fan of big mountain skiing and followed some of the original like badass athletes on the North Face team, like Ingrid Backstrom and and Hillary Nelson, and just kind of they always were like posters on my wall growing up. I grew up in a skiing a lot, but kind of dropped out of skiing, and when my family moved away from the mountains and focused still on sports, but ended up kind of just dropping out of caring about that world too much, and found my way. I started at an investment bank out of college, just kind of needed a job, and was working in an investment bank during the financial crisis of '07, '08, and got this wild inside look into what the banking system is and how crazy it is. And I was working for a bank that, had a lot of involvement in syndicated loans, and I had actually incredible mentors who, would tell me, why are you doing this? Get out of this business now. Shout out to Bob Kleinert. And I took it pretty literally, and also was watching the collapse of the banking industry and just had a full existential crisis and tried to think about what are my applicable life skills, which were not very many. And I applied for dude ranch work and ranch work at ranches all over the United States, out west. None of them called me back until after I'd quit my job and I was just kind of living at home. And I got this call from this ranch outside of Jackson, Wyoming. And they were like, if you can send me a picture proving that you know how to horseback ride, or a video, it's still on YouTube, it's incredibly embarrassing, then we have a job for you. So I created a video, moved out to Wyoming, and really that was the beginning of it all. I needed to figure out what I was doing the winter after that summer, which was an incredible experience of just Western lifestyle. Everything was just different out west, the wide open spaces, good vibes. It was my first, I hadn't really been in the tourism world, hadn't really been in the content world. And that winter I started working in some entry-level production work, PAing. I taught ski school, I was a nanny, I worked at a restaurant. But it got me back into skiing and got me kind of this tangential side hustle of getting coffee on some of like really low-key productions. And so I did this bounce back and forth from ranch to ski, and started getting involved in free ride competitions just as something exciting to do, figure out a couple ways to break some bones. And eventually got a few sponsorships, people just giving me product. Will you wear this? I'm like, yeah, sure. Great. That sounds awesome. And I won a couple of free ride competitions and got the attention of the North Face and started on their like flow program where they were just giving me gear, but got to hang out with Angel Collinson and Ingrid Backstrom. And all of a sudden I was like in the mix. And then I blew my knee for like the third time. And it was just kind of this okay situation where it was like I was craving something next. And I'd started picking up my camera more, had worked my way up from like coffee getter to helping cast and organize like line productions for commercial shoots. And so I joined the North Face internal team as the most junior person that you could possibly be, but really helped get their outdoor centric productions in order and loved it. So my intention was to work in the office for 6 months in kind of this internship form and then go back to skiing. So I went back to skiing and came in like absolute last place in a freeride competition. And that was it. I was like, and I craved being back in that office. Like, it was such an amazing environment. I loved the consistent paycheck, no matter how small it was. But I'd gotten exposure to how we make stories come to life, and how you put productions together. So that was kind of the long-winded journey into production.
So when you went back to skiing, came in last, we're like, maybe I'm not going back to this. Like, what was the point? Like, what was the pivot to go like, that production thing is, I got bit.
Yeah, part of the reason I liked skiing and liked the experience of competing and traveling and meeting all these new people was for like the risk and the excitement of being around new people consistently. And when I wasn't willing to take on that risk after having recovered from a bunch of injuries back to back, it ended up being not as fulfilling or not as motivating. I wasn't like willing to spend a bunch of money that I didn't really have to get myself to that competition. And what became really clear was that I loved community and loved building something and working towards a goal. And it was just became really clear that skiing was no longer going to fill that bucket for me, and I needed to like walk into the next thing. And my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, was looked at me and was like, what are you doing here? Are you going to be like a 40-year-old professional skier, or are you going to take this awesome opportunity at a brand that you love, that you have already had an experience at, that was so fulfilling? And that really like flipped the switch for me. I was like, you're right. What am I doing? And skiing will always be there, and I'll always figure out what that balance is. But I was like, it was so obvious at that point to just walk through that door and say yes to this amazing opportunity.
What was it about the North Face as a brand that you really connected with?
I was so intimidated in that office. And what ended up being the like thing that settled me was when we were out on productions with like-minded producers, athletes, photographers, the same type of people that craved these diverse experiences in unique environments, who were all kind of in it just to kind of like wing it. There was like this cowboy up, like renegade style of production that was exactly what I craved. There wasn't a ton of, advertising industry influence on these productions. They were like, how much can we get done? In which locations do we not need a permit? In, how long can we spend in a car versus flying? It was really these photo shoots that were much more adventures than they were these like storyboarded, perfect commercial expressions. So it was I was all of a sudden around the same type of people that I'd always craved to be around. Even if going back to banking, it was totally wildly eye-opening and fresh, and I liked that experience of getting to see that side of life and knew that that was not a path that I wanted to follow. And then with skiing, and working on ranches and working with packing outfits and I was just constantly craving to be in community, but having unique and individual experiences, which ultimately are what photo shoots are what productions are. They're this collective of people that come together for this common purpose to tell a story, and every experience is unique.
What were the first roles as you stepped in the door and you decided like, I'm going all in?
Well, I moved to Oakland, and that to me felt like I'm all in. When I had to make the decision between staying in Wyoming and continuing on as a restaurant server and ski guide, which also was great, and I could have gone either way. It was like a road split at that point. But when I decided to pack up my life and move to Oakland, that felt like, all right, we're in it. We're doing this, and we'll see how it goes. But that was kind of the moment of like, whoa, yeah, we're doing it.
What were the first roles you had once you were inside?
My job was to run our outdoor specific commercial production. So product shoots, athlete photo shoots. I started to dabble and get involved in studios, in studio productions, but mostly my job was on line producing shoots, booking travel, getting athletes there, figuring out who we're shooting, where we're shooting, and started to meet different photographers, learning about different styles of shooting. There wasn't a lot of video on these shoots. This is like 2015, 2016. It was like right at Instagram had been around for like a couple of years, but like video wasn't really informing the media that we were putting out at that point. It was still like print ads and banner ads and e-commerce banners. So it was a lot of still photography. But what I learned about that was we still wanted to tell this story of adventure. And so we were basically, it felt like a video shoot because of the way that we were moving through, whether it was the mountains or the glaciers or, but yeah, my job was focused in the outdoors.
When did you start to transition into sort of this video storytelling film world?
Yeah, great question. We had I'd started at that after a while. I started working on more campaign work, got some exposure to how agencies brought things to life for the North Face for these like bigger campaigns. And one of the big moments was our launch of a fabric called Future Light. And it was kind of the anti-Gore-Tex North Face owned fabric. And I guess, I remember it was Hillary Nelson and Jim Morrison were going to go ski, try to ski Lhotse Couloir. And there was a photographer set up to go with them on this expedition. At that point, I'd become really good friends with Hillary from my time on the athlete team and then through all these outdoor productions. And she just was this amazing partner in kind of being a friend first, being like boldly helping me feel more confident in the internal world of the North Face. And then also just like we had similar interests and she was my ski idol. And so she just was I became a super good friend. So we were talking about this trip that she was going on and she's like, Kak, I think we're going to ski it. The conditions are amazing. And I was like, who's going on your shoot with you? Like what videographers? And at that point there were none and they were leaving in like 3 weeks. And I was talking with our head of sports marketing at the time. And I just was like, we have to send videographers on this shoot. Like or on this expedition, it's going to be something. They're going to ski this. And that confidence came from Hillary. I have no idea if they were going to ski it or not. And so I helped put together a team to send on this expedition, and it ended up turning into the film Lhotse. And that was not necessarily the true origination of my involvement in video and in narrative, but it was definitely the moment that was pinnacle in realizing that through the connections I've made, both through friendships, through industry, through my own experience of adventure, like I have the right connections and I guess unseated confidence to figure this out and problem solve and make things work out and trust my gut that the story's going to come together in the way that it should. So that was kind of the moment of like, I guess, confidence that this is exactly what I want to do.
What was it about that expedition that made you go like, there needs to be a video crew on this?
The energy around the campaign launch for this fabric, the way that they were putting they being the suits in marketing, putting a ton of, I don't know, energy and investment behind, highlighting this innovation. And they were seeding it all directly in this athlete tested, expedition proven mantra. And I was like, I think we need to do more to round this out. A commercial shoot is not going to do this justice. The opportunity is to tell a deep human story about that's not just about the actual achievement, but is about the aspiration and the build up and the goals and who these people are and how they came together, and transcend this marketing effort and be able to like actually, which I actually saw this all work out, and I actually believed in the innovation, believed in the opportunity for us to tell a story beyond the commercial moments, beyond the brand activation. And so there was like a real belief system in that this is actually really cool, and we are putting a lot of money into this, but more importantly, there is a real story behind this. And let's take the time to get people connected to the why beyond just, it's breathable, it's waterproof.
Do you think that like gut instinct came because you had that experience like as an athlete, and you knew like the dynamics of a team and what goes into an expedition like that? Or was it coming more from like the brand side where you were like, I think we have just opportunities to tell better stories in these products?
I think there is a duality, but rather than the former of what you mentioned, I think that the duality is the connections I've made and being able to really like lean into them beyond just a business connection. I think with everyone that you meet, there's levels of, how they influence your life. But my confidence in my relationship with Hillary and just having this low-key, off-the-cuff conversation about what they really thought their success was going to be, and knowing her and knowing that there's this untapped vulnerability in who she is that we haven't really shown at least through the North Face lens, that I just feel like I was like, this could be an amazing story. So there's that. And then also knowing that we're going to miss the mark in all of these just overt commercial moments. And that I still don't think that we blended them perfectly, and the film was its own success in film festivals in the outdoor industry. And I don't know I think maybe the fact that we didn't assign it directly to the campaign, but that was how we got it funded. But, that did show me that building a story around an opportunity can inform a project in a much bigger way. And actually, like, the people that we want to reach around these high level innovations are going to be more apt to ignore the marketing and lean into the story of their heroes than, just following an ad banner or whatever. But yeah, I did see that was the moment of like, this is an unlock. We got to push this further.
What changed for you after that? Like, once you had done that, you had made this film and it had come to life. Like, did that change how you now approached your work going forward?
Totally. It was such an incredible team effort between my partner at the North Face, Rob Wassmer, between the athletes, both Jim and Hillary, between my like trusted friends who had put in this incredible role, Dutch and Nick, and then also between working on like how to navigate and socialize the opportunity with our internal team. I just saw that there are so many people that are involved in making something that matters, and it coming from like a team sports background and like always wanting to explore like the different dimensions, and all the decisions that you make as a group inform the ultimate outcome of the project. And so I just got really, I don't know, I didn't understand marketing before that. It was like, for me, this is now marketing. It's like, how do we build, or it was like my definition of what I think marketing should be. Is like, how do we build the right team and have the right balance of who plays what role at what point to create something awesome. And to me, that like has informed my entire career. Who do I want to work with immediately? Who do I say yes to? Who do I say no to? How do we, track the path, not only of like, not necessarily of least resistance, but of the thing that's going to make the most sense, and push up against resistance when it's worth it, and fight the battles that, make sense, and let the other things go. And so it just showed to me that, yeah, I want to work in community. I want to work with like-minded people, and we get the opportunity to put these people together. And that's our role at the brand. Especially, I don't run a camera, I don't produce anymore. My job is to, at this point, put together the best team to make the project reach its highest potential.
How has storytelling at the North Face changed for you since that moment?
It's been it's continuing to evolve, but I think that moment was a proof point of people saying internally, like, we can fund these projects a little bit more. I'm not going to say overtly because we are almost in that phase, but for the last 4 years, we've been, depending on what the project is, working with different internal partners to get the right funding to make the project. So it's been a lot of fundraising, if that makes sense, versus just having someone be like, we believe in storytelling. And the North Face has always believed in storytelling. We put out a ton of athlete content, and storytelling is the backbone of why this brand has existed for so long. So is our athlete team. So we've done a great job of continuing to churn out content, but we are finally organizing it in a little bit of a better way, where we are saying we believe in storytelling and here's the framework that we're going to work in. We're going to overtly fund. We are going to have a central purpose and values that, we all subscribe to globally. We have a lot of different regions and we're a big organization. And so the opportunity that we have in front of us is to continue to make elevated content that is not only just about our athlete team and about our purpose and values, but is entertaining and brings more people into the brand. And I think that that's something where all brands are right now, where they're recognizing the opportunity to, through stories, bring more people into their brand and change the advertising landscape. So, yeah, but it's been a journey.
For you, what are the essentials in a story that have to exist to, to move an audience and to bring people into the North Face world?
I've stayed steadfast and this goes back to that project with Hillary and Lotse, that there needs to be an amazing character who's vulnerable and ready to tell their story and really lean into it. So character driven as the number one reason to tell the story. As soon as something strays to being like super issue focused or super achievement focused, I think that doesn't differentiate you from any other brand who can tell any story around any purpose and value strategy, or any brand that has an athlete team or plays in the same arenas that we do. So having the character that pulls you in and is ready to tell their story, whether they're an athlete or just a protagonist that you believe in, is number one for me. And then the team that you decide to build around that story, including who's the person who's telling that person's story, and are they in sync with how that story is going to be told. And it just goes, then it's just, the roads just are wise, and everyone has to, then you have already a team right there between like the brand who's financing the project and wants to have their purpose come to life through that story. You have the character or characters that you are leading with, and then you have their chosen partner to bring their story to life. And already then you have a team. So you're not making a decision in a silo anymore. You can start to say, what makes this project fit? Who do you want to be the DP? Who is the right producer? How should we start with distribution, or do we want to work and create this project and see where it goes on its own? So that to me is like, as soon as you're no longer making a siloed decision around which direction the project then goes in, once you've chosen that character and you've proven the reason why you want to tell that story, then to me it feels like, obviously all projects go in a million different directions, but it at least gives this like weight to the decisions that you're making them as a team, and gives, I guess, clarity to the decisions you're making, that it's not all on you.
When it comes to this kind of work, how do you see the role of the North Face as a brand in storytelling? Like, what role does the North Face play when you're looking at, the athletes and the creative teams and bringing these people together? How do you view your role in that process?
It's a great question. And I think it's a very important question that I'm not sure that I have an off the cuff answer to, but let me think about this for a second. I think, first of all, we're in this amazing start. North Face is an amazing starting position of having incredible athletes who have told stories both through the brand and outside of the brand. So we have a foundation that we can work on. But I also think that we need to grow that foundation for what we're known for outside of just these athlete-driven narratives. And right now, our role at the North Face is to extend the stories that we're telling because of the agency and the reputation that we already have built in the space, especially through documentaries. So obviously the marketing opportunities to bring more people into the brand to understand exactly what we stand on, what are our purpose and values around access, around protecting our wild places. But I think that our job in the immediacy is to extend out of exclusively athlete stories, which we have, but we're not known for that. And so our role is to continue to tell stories of diverse voices and diverse perspectives and get out of just the kind of traditional top of mountain stories. Yeah.
Why does storytelling matter to you? Like, what are you drawn to in the art form of storytelling?
My answer is probably a little bit unique because I don't consume a lot of content through and through. Especially not traditional content that you would think that a brand narratives director would be consuming all the time. I need to be immediately attached to an opening scene or an opening theme that just pulls me in. So I think I like the rush of trying to put the team together that can bring you into that first moment and get someone to watch something all the way through. Because as an individual, that's very unique. For me to watch a documentary all the way through, I'd say it's like 1 in 50. But I think that that's my job is like, how do we get someone to watch something all the way to the end? And I think I'm drawn to the rush of putting together the best team for the right story. Not necessarily the exact story or the exact outcome that I want. I think that the rush for me around storytelling is how seamlessly can a project come together. And obviously everything has, peaks and valleys, but I kind of am drawn to the thrill of problem solving from the beginning to see a project all the way through.
Is there a project that really jumps out to you where you were like, ooh, the puzzle pieces went the way I wanted them when I was thinking about them?
No, because the projects that I've thought have gone that way all the way through post-production and delivery have ended up having their own weird journeys thereafter. So, or not reaching expectations but I would just say no. I think every single project has had its unique, can I say clusterfucks?
Yeah.
I feel like every project just has its own situations where you're like, if I could do it differently, I would have done this. And I think that's part of the thrill of like what keeps us going and like wanting to, in my case, make more, get overt funding and prove this case of a marketing revolution through entertainment and just actually change the way that people are seeing our brand and the consumers that we reach. Like I just want to make more because I want to go on these crazy, complicated adventures with these like-minded people who are also trying to do the same thing.
I feel like the athlete side of things, I don't want to say it feels predictable, but it feels known, right? Like you, for the most part, elements of how an athlete's story will come together because there's a level of like, we're going to go try to do an insane thing that no one's done before. And like, we've got to put everything we can to overcome that. As you're thinking about how does the North Face tell not athlete-centered stories all the time, what are you exploring and how are you looking for those stories? And are they as heavily expedition-based as the athlete stories are or have been?
No. I think that, you know, actually, if I were to pin, I'll go back to your other question because this thing is a good answer for this question. Learning to drown is an example of a project that is about Jess Kimura. And she's a professional snowboarder on our team, but has also been this absolute leader in women's snowboarding through many different initiatives. And this is a story about her, but it's about her journey and her quote unquote rise, but not in a traditional sense, but rise into self-actualization, rise into her true path. It's a story of her loss of her partner all the way woven through her incredible achievements in the world of snowboarding that was completely male dominated, all the way to landing into her ability to extend and bring more women into the sports through her uninvited tour. That project to me is an example of many filters that I would love to be included in the projects that we put together. It's athlete centric. It's leveraging someone we have a known and trusted relationship with someone, a character who's incredibly vulnerable and ready to tell her story. It's about access and bringing people into the sport. And it also is about life challenges that we are all going to go through, about loss and grief and how you recover. And so that is a project that, other than COVID impacting the production deadline and journey, was to me one of the most perfect projects. And of course, we were working with Ben Knight and Travis Rummel, and they were just incredible and magic to work with. And Jess, of course, you know, her dedication to the project was unbelievable. But that's a project where I feel like it touches on a lot of what we represent as a brand. But I also think that in the future, we'd like to tell more stories around access, for sure, around edges of human potential, but not necessarily in these direct achievement-based models, around like around mindset and grit. I think we've done a good job, but we can do a better job of telling stories that are character-centered around protecting our wild places. And so I think that Learning to Drown is such a good example of like it being so close to home, yet a different direction for us. And that's a project that I think touches on a lot of the places that I'd like to continue to tell stories. She's accessible. How do we bring more people into the brand when we're known for achievements that only the 1% of the 1% of the 1% have a chance to even imagine? I think that it's going to be through stories that are those stories can translate, of course, but there's so much more that we can be doing. I'm excited. We've just moved our amazing impact partner onto the brand narratives team so that we can start to figure out exactly what are the issues that we want to speak out on in the film projects, and how do we actively hear these stories so that they're outside of our networks of people that are known to us, so they're outside of our athlete team. And so that move, and just saying that we believe in impact through storytelling as the greatest opportunity for change and the greatest opportunity for our brand to extend into social change, I think is huge. And it proves the point that you know, people really do believe, and I say people, but our internal team are you know, believe that storytelling is our vessel for our largest impact. So that's yet to come. I'm excited.
Amazing. Okay, before I let you go, they slipped away. So we have been calling these rapid fire. Turns out not rapid. So I'm calling them 5 thoughtful questions before I let you go.
5 thoughtful questions.
5 thoughtful questions.
Okay.
What is a story that has had an impact on your life and why? And it can be from any medium.
This is not going to be rapid fire.
Right?
Do you know that I'm like, you could ask me my favorite song or my favorite book or my favorite movie, and I don't have an answer for any of them. So it's because I have no memories. No, I'm serious. There's people who remember, and there's people like me who have no memories. I think I'm trying to slow down, but I think I've lived life like so quickly that I have experiences that I've built off of, but I have literally no memories. So we have to skip that one. Okay. I mean, we can come back to it. Let me ponder.
Okay, we'll see if we come back to it at the end.
Probably Matilda.
Oh, that's a good one.
Probably Matilda.
Yeah.
Okay, we got there.
It. Yeah. Why?
Because it was about this girl who was kind of unwanted by her parents, and she just proved her magic up against people putting her down and her not having a clear path, and she just kept just finding her way until she arrived at her point of greatness. And I just loved early on my recognition that women are fierce, age doesn't matter, what your talents are can be hidden, and you can rise above everything.
I feel like I love every iteration of Matilda.
Right?
Like I love the book.
No one's done a bad job.
I love the first movie. My daughter's like obsessed with the current movie with, full musical. It always hits.
It hits.
What's one film you think everyone should watch?
These are so not rapid fire.
Right?
This
I've
is
learned.
So panicky. You're going to have to like click edit and just have me go.
We'll just cut the silence out. Don't worry.
These questions are going to suck for me because I have no memories, or we need at least 10 seconds for me.
That's okay. Take a breath. Think about it. And it's not your favorite or anything. It's just like one that you've consumed. You're like, more people need to see this.
Yeah. Come back.
Okay.
It's too hard. It's so hard. The number of like movies that just like flooded, and I was like, none of those are it. Like none of those are it.
What's something you never leave home without?
I leave home without all the things I need every single day.
No memory.
No memory. Like, I go home for my phone, then I'll go home for my earpods, then I'll go home for my notebook. Sometimes I'll go home for my computer. One thing I do leave my house every day in are work boots. Because, well, I have horses and there's often a midday situation. But yeah.
So they're always on the ready.
Always on the ready.
What's an important place for you to go to find inspiration?
For me, it's water. Yeah, just really any kind of water. I'm lucky I live in the middle of nature, but even when I was living in the city, just being able to get to the bay, walk around near water, it's just always helped me. Yeah.
Amazing.
Water.
What's the most important skill for a storyteller to develop?
Patience. I don't have any. I'm still working on it.
Developing it.
Yeah, I'm developing patience. But I think that there's patience in the opportunity of hearing yes. It doesn't mean that it's like the wrong project, or it just might be like the time isn't right. There's patience in developing a project that you know is an amazing idea, but you just can't get the hook. I'm in that right now. There's patience in having the right team to come together. Sometimes you have to be patient and make big decisions about changes that have to be made. And I just think patience is something I don't have, that I'm still learning, but it's something that just like keeps, like, I'm getting flooded with reminders to be patient, to slow down. The universe just like will slam me with an injury right when I'm moving too fast. It's pretty consistent. But yeah, patience and just taking some breaths.
Amazing. Think of a film?
No.
Okay.
That's insane. I'm going to. Give me a second. Oh. That everyone should watch. I just feel like that question is flawed.
Ouch.
What's yours?
A film that everyone should watch? Oh.
This might help.
I mean,
I'm like Matilda.
Yeah, Matilda. I mean, that's fair. I mean, you know, the answers to this question have been so varied, and I think that's what's so interesting about it.
Yeah, but that's why I need one.
Like,
I mean,
you know,
it's like
we've heard everything from like Rear Window to You know, all of these different sort of artistic films. Sometimes they're big films. Sometimes they're documentaries. Like I find it an
What's
interesting
yours?
question. You know what,
I
the
know, it's
one
like
that I
so
go to all the time, and I don't know why, and no one's ever seen this film. It's called Seven Psychopaths, and it's this really interesting. It's like a story within a story, and I find the way the narrative unfolds itself fascinating, because you have all of these characters playing, and then they sort of reveal that what you thought was two worlds is one world, and it kind of all collides at the end. And I just remember sitting in the theater and watching it and just going like, I like that this broke a lot of rules. Like a lot of rules that in my brain was like, this is how stories have to go. It like broke a bunch of them. And I was like, and I was so into it.
Yeah, see, that's a good answer for you, but like, it's not a film that everyone should watch. That's where I think your question's flawed. Well, yeah. Okay, if I just had to tell someone to watch a movie that changed like my life, is Black Beauty.
I mean, it's a classic.
But we can't put that in the podcast.
Why not?
Well, it just like has influenced my life in so many different ways. And I think that, but I don't think it's a film that everyone should watch. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a movie that I'll go to and I'll just turn on. Same with Mrs. Doubtfire, though.
Well, that's just a classic.
Yeah, but I think probably right now what I would tell people to watch is Fire of Love.
Why?
I love how a story of the past and a love affair with nature can be still so relevant today, and just throw people into, like, you're immediately brought into their story. I love films that are rooted in archival. Absolutely. Like Valley Uprising is also one of my absolute favorite movies. And I know that's a little on the nose for my, the brand that I work for. But to me, that documentary really was this. I love a throwback into the past where you can like see where something's going today. So yeah, maybe Valley Uprising.
They got them all. Don't worry.
Get Black Beauty out of there.
Amazing.
No, that's fine.
Thanks so much, Kaki.
Oh, I'm going to think about the movie that I think everyone should watch so intensely for the next hour. I'm going to be like, I need to come back in.